All right. Well, welcome everyone and happy Friday, April 17th. Welcome to our fourth in a series of webinars here. I can't believe we're already into our fourth week here. So I don't know about you, but all the weeks kind of blend in for me. So anyway, thank you all. It looks like we've got another great group of people that are joining us here. And let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Ed Earl, and I run a construction project management company in San Diego, California, where I serve as an owner's rep. And I work with homeowners that are building custom homes or doing high-end remodels. And I've been in construction for about 30 years. For the last 20 years, I've been in residential construction. And I also have an MBA from Stanford, so I have a business background as well. So I'll turn it over to Paul. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, my master's was in Cal Poly, which is not nearly as impressive as Stanford, but that's okay. I've been doing this for 35 years, worked with hundreds and hundreds of contractors over that time. And this is a new thing for me. I mean, I've literally never faced this before, the instant recession. It's really exciting, I think. You know, I mean, happy Pandemic Friday, right? So a lot of opportunities opening up. I always find this kind of time very exciting, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you and seeing how hopefully you can get excited about the opportunities as opposed to depressed about the upcoming recession.
And I'm David Lupberger, and I'm a former building contractor, and I have the only real degree here at the School of Hard Knocks, that after being 25 years in the industry, and you know this, every year we're learning something new, dealing with new challenges, and guess what? The coronavirus is just another challenge. So we'll deal with it. We're here to share best practices, and really just on a week-by-week basis. This thing is moving quickly, but as Paul just said, there's opportunities. There's things that are opening up, so we want to focus on that too. So let me give it back to you, Ed.
Great, thanks, David. Yep, just real quickly to review, that is the intent of our webinar here. As David said, things are changing so quickly. A lot of things have happened here in the last couple of weeks about funding and disaster relief, and we've got the latest information for you this morning, and also want to give you some best advice and strategies. We talk to about 50 different clients that we have nationwide every week, and so we're constantly hearing new situations, new strategies, and new ideas, and we're going to be sharing those with you on our webinar each week as well. So let's start as we have for the last few weeks and talk about where you can work. So some good news this week, actually. You can see from the slide here that things actually haven't changed in over a week. So there's been no change in construction status for the states since April 7th. So last week on Friday, I was telling you that I thought that the 8 or so remaining states that we have here, or 7 remaining states, would soon have regulations. Well, they've escaped it for this long, and from what I can tell, it seems like most of the states are starting to peak as far as the rate of infection, and most states are doing a pretty good job of flattening that curve. So I think if you're in one
Ed,
of the
I have a comment for you. We have a guy in upstate New York, and yes. I think the revolution has begun, because what's happening is where he is in upstate New York, there's literally zero problem with the coronavirus, right? But he's still in New York, right? So he has a place where, you know, people are like, it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's Sarasota, right? And it's a great city anyway. They're still starting to say, well, we're going to arrest you on the street if you're not wearing a mask, whatever the hell. I mean, and it's fine if you're in downtown Manhattan, but I think there's some unrest in where they're trying to apply a general rule, which doesn't necessarily work in the entire same state.
Yeah. Yeah, no, another red state, as far as red on this map here, is Michigan. And I was talking to one of our clients, Sarah, in Michigan, and she said that a bunch of people went to the Capitol, drove their cars down there to protest and packed the streets of the Capitol there in Michigan State, and to protest as well. So yeah, I think people are starting to realize that 22 million people out of work and unemployment, we've got to find some way to get this nation working again. So, all right, well, enough of the get off our political soapbox there. Let's move on to the aid packages that are here and available. So the good news is that we have reports that all 4 of the different aid packages that we've been talking about these last few weeks that they have all started funding. So the first one is the economic injury disaster loan, and we have some good and bad news on that I'll talk about in a minute. The next one is the Paycheck Protection Program, which we also have some good and bad news about that. The direct payments to workers and families, that's the $1,200 direct payment. Probably many of you might have started seeing that. It just shows up in your bank account. In order for it to do that this week, a few things had to happen. First off, you had to have filed your taxes already. Second, you had to have given, when you filed your taxes, your direct deposit information for your bank account and your routing number. And the third is you have to have qualified for this amount, which means that you either have to be an individual making less than $75,000 of your adjusted gross income, or if you're married, filed jointly, it's $150,000 for married and jointly. And then the last of the four is the unemployment benefits, which is the additional $600 per week. But I also found out from my niece that you have to qualify for that. You don't just get that full 600. So it's based on what your previous wage rate was. So again, you don't get that full 600 unless you qualify for it.
And that, that has some interesting effects. We have some people in recruiting where with that extra money, they're getting more on unemployment than they would get if they were working. So now the executives are doing great. Recruiting is awesome in that area. But to the lower labor forces, some people are saying, hey, I'll stay at home because why go to work? It's the same amount of money.
Right.
And we just got a note from one of our attendees. Vermont governor just announced construction can go back to work on Monday with some stipulations. 1 or 2 only crew members, no commuting together. So look, it is starting to loosen up.
Great. Oh, that's great news. Great news. All right. Well, I applied for the economic injury disaster loan about 2.5 weeks ago. And probably like many of you, and if you were on our webinar 2 weeks ago, I shared the process I went through and the confirmation number that I received when I was on the site. But after I got that confirmation, I heard nothing, silence, crickets. Didn't even get an email confirmation. And we had some of you asking us, hey, did I do something wrong? I never got an email confirmation. Well, I didn't either until I received this email on Tuesday. This was the first correspondence that I got that even confirmed that I had applied for that. And notice what it said here. To ensure the greatest number of applicants can receive assistance during this challenging time, the amount of your advance will be determined by the number of your pre-disaster employees. So the advance will provide $1,000 per employee up to a maximum of $10,000. So now if you applied and asked for the $10,000, you're only going to get the $10,000 if you have 10 or more employees. So that's the little hitch. I just checked right before the webinar to see if my money had come yet in the account, and unfortunately it hasn't. Let me also go through a comparison here between the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. You can see the differences here. One of the key ones is that the Paycheck Protection Program is forgivable, while the economic injury disaster loan is not, except for the advance. So whatever you get in that advance, somewhere between $1,000 to $10,000, that part is forgivable. However, that forgivable portion is taken out of what's forgivable from your PPL loan. So let's say, for example, you got $10,000 with your EIDL loan, $10,000 advance, and you have a $50,000 PPL loan. Only $40,000 of your PPL loan will be forgivable because you got the other $10,000 from the EIDL. Now, some of you may recall back in the days when there was mortgage adjustments back in 2008. Remember when people were upside down in their mortgages and lenders were giving loan forgiveness? And then people got surprised at the end of the year because they got a 1099 for the amount of the forgiveness of the loan. So there's a question about, will the loan forgiveness part be taxable? And the great news is that the answer is no. So usually under federal law, loan forgiveness, as I said, counts as taxable income. But the coronavirus aid relief and economic securities, which we're calling the CARES Act, expressly excludes the forgiveness of small business loans under the Paycheck Protection Program. So now states are subject to their own interpretation, but since states generally follow federal treatments, we're hoping and thinking that the states won't charge you either. So the great news here is that you're not going to get a 1099 and that the forgivable portion of the loan is not taxable. Okay, let's hop over to the Paycheck Protection Program. Again, good and bad news on this end. The good news is the money has started to flow. As early as last Wednesday, we had a client in Arkansas get $212,000 back on April 9th. And then we had someone in Montana on Thursday, $102,000 in Virginia last Friday, and $160,000 from Missouri on Monday. So, but the commonality here is that all of the fundings have been from local banks. So if you are not with a local bank, you're probably SOL. And I'll let Paul share with us his experience from Chase.
Well, I called Chase and I kept trying to get a hold of him. Finally, I decided, okay, I'm going to sit on the phone for an hour to wait for a customer service person because the loan is in there and I want to find out, you know, am I in the loan? Am I in the queue? I am not. I filled out all the papers. So after an hour on hold, I finally got to talk to a, you know, real person who worked for Chase. And they said, we have no idea. They won't tell us. It has nothing to do with us. We get 30 phone calls every, you know, hour or 50, 100. We don't know what's going on. Don't bother us because we have no clue. You'll get an email or a call. So just don't ever call me back again. Thank you, Chase. That was my Chase experience.
Yeah, I literally just right now got a text from one of my clients, and he said, I just got a notice today from Chase that all funding was exhausted. Chase said they would notify us if there's a second round of funding. So. At the bottom down there is what I received from my local bank, which was great news for me 2 days ago, in that they had all the loan docs ready. I think he was trying to undercommit and overdeliver. He said that he should have the loan docs for me by the end of the week or early next week. He actually got them to me yesterday. There were only 10 pages, and I was able to fill them all out, scan them, and send them back last night. And so I'm in line to get my Paycheck Protection Program. So,
and Tom Thompson just reviewed. He just put on the that he just received a little over 120 grand with U.S. Bank, so he just got some money.
And interesting, U.S. Bank.
That's pretty sad because my thought is Chase. I was reading a statistic that SBA did more loan in 14 days than they did in 14 years.
That's it.
Right. Idea.
That's perfect. That was a perfect intro to the next slide here, which is exactly that. So here's the bad news. This is from Inc. magazine from an article that just came out this morning. It said at just before noon Eastern on Thursday, that was yesterday, only 14 days after the small business across America were first able to apply for the PPP, the SBA announced that it had exhausted its allocated funds. The agency which administers the PPP shut down its application and ceased enrolling new lenders into the program. So that is the bad news. As Paul said, the SBA processed more than 14 years worth of loans in less than 14 days. Now, the good news is that Congress is expected to sign off on additional PPP funding. So hopefully they're going to realize how many more businesses still needed that aid, and they're going to have more funding available in the PPP program. Until then, Inc. magazine is suggesting another new program, which is called the Main Street Lending Program. So let me just spend a minute and go through this. It's something that I just started looking at. So the program, like all of these, is a new program, and this one is still in development. And it's really geared more towards mid-sized companies. So unlike the interest rate on the PPP, which is only 1%, the interest rate here is somewhere between 2.5% and 4%. But here's the kicker. The smallest loan amount for the Main Street loan is $1 million. So unless you're a pretty big company and you can really need that money, the Main Street loan is probably not going to be for you. The other thing with the Main Street loan is not only is it at a higher interest rate, but it's also not forgivable. But
yeah,
if you
missed out free money.
Yeah, if you missed out on the PPP and you're a large enough construction company where you could use the $1 million loan, then you should check out the Main Street Lending Program. All right, so that's the update for the loans for this week. Again, one thing we didn't say at the beginning, but I'll say now, we're going to try to keep these webinars to about 30 minutes because we know that all of you are busy and trying to do a lot here in our time away from the office. So I'm going to keep things going as much as I can. I want to just mention here, talk quickly about how the pandemic is facilitating the digital transformation in the residential construction industry. You know, last week, Paul talked about this book, Who Moved My Cheese? And one of the slides from that book is, if you do not change, you can become extinct. And I think that this is a perfect example of that, in that contractors are always reluctant to use new technology. Paul says that contractors are Luddites. And once I looked it up to see what Luddite means, the definition is that it's someone who is resistant to adopting new technology. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Paul, you want to tell your story from years past and getting contractors to
adopt? Well, I've been doing this for 35 years. So I had to talk contractors into using cell phones because they thought they would disturb their peace of mind in the truck. And then I remember when email came along, it was a fad and they weren't going to do it. It was a waste of whatever. And then we came along with websites, and the websites were, yeah, I don't need a website. My customers know me, they'll call me. And so I fought this, battle. And now the latest battle is, web-based project management systems. And I talked to some people today that said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't need to do it. We're talking about guys that are doing 15 million and saying, no, I don't need one of those. I'd rather do it the old way. So, it's the more you're attached to the cheese, the harder it is to move, right?
Right, exactly. So in this age of social distancing and it's really, as you read more, you start to realize that this is not going away. We're never going to be going back to the way that we did business in the past. So utilizing technology, finding ways to be able to connect to your clients in other ways besides face-to-face is going to be critical going forward. This is not a fad. This isn't something that's going to go away in a couple of months.
Right.
So let me just—
You're going to tell your kids, I remember when we used to shake hands, right? It'll happen.
Exactly. So let me just quickly kind of cover three topics, 3 digital tools that every builder should have. The first is a cloud-based construction project management system. This is the first thing that we recommend when we start working with a new client, is if they do not have a cloud-based system, that they really need to adopt that. And there's lots of great systems out there. I personally, in my construction management business, I use CoConstruct, I use Buildertrend, and I use UDA Construction Online. So in a future webinar, I'll spend some more time describing the different options out there. The next thing is something that we covered in our very first webinar, which was talking about video conferencing and messaging and screen shares. And I'm sure all of you now are, as well as your kids, are all familiar with Zoom. Everyone's gotten a crash course education on how to use Zoom. A GoToMeeting is another one, another virtual meeting site, as well as Ring Central. But there were a couple of other programs that we talked about in greater detail. If you want to go back on our website, you can watch the first webinar. But one of them is called Loom. And it's similar to Zoom in that it allows you to give a video presentation, but it's through an email. So it allows you to basically create a video message via an email. And you can also, like Zoom, you can screen share. So it allows you to do that. And then Glide is the companion to that for a smartphone. So it's a way that you can actually send a video message, text message via your smartphone. So the last group is the remote viewing and design tools. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about that today, particularly the 360-degree camera and Matterport. Let me share with you an email that one of our clients put together, which I think is just a perfect example of how contractors need to pivot and really embrace this new technology. This is Lewis Builders, one of our clients in Monterey, California. And they sent this out to explain to everyone that they have the technology in order to do a lot with, even though the fact that they are required to work from home. The first is the Matterport technology. Matterport is a way that it's an integrated video system that allows you to virtually walk through the projects. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute, but they're actually using it for their inspections with their building inspectors, which is a great idea. And then in their email, they go on to talk about virtual meetings and how they are doing all of their meetings on Zoom. And I know that every week they're having these meetings. As a matter of fact, I think some of them are having them on a daily basis. It's just an early morning touch bases on Zoom. And then also that they're using their 3D rendering software to be able to conduct client design project meetings. And they can actually design right there with the clients, just as if they were sitting across the table from them. So let me tell you a little bit more about the Matterport technology. For those of you that haven't seen it before, this is a website with a demo of one of their projects. And what happens is it's not a video. It's something that you, as the user, actually control. So there are touch points, and you can literally, with your mouse, click your way through the house. It gives you a full 360-degree view. You can look up and see the ceiling and look down and literally walk through the house. So on our group coaching call, we spent some more time and actually showed a demonstration of how it works. But again, we want to try to keep this to 30 minutes, so I'm not going to walk.
And I make a comment, Ed, the real estate industry has adopted this way faster than contractors to help sell houses.
Exactly.
But it's still an amazing technology, and I highly recommend that every contractor of any size have their own Matterport camera.
Right.
They're about
now, Matterport's a little bit pricey, Paul. What is it? That's about, how much is it for Matterport?
About $3,000 for Matterport camera.
Yeah. So it's about $3,000.
Or they'll do it for you. Apparently, you can get somebody to come in and do the layout for you.
Right.
Yeah, it's like $500.
Yeah. Now, here's another option, which is a much less expensive option, which is a 360-degree camera. So this is a great way for you to be able to, you can do an inspection this way. You can also share the current project status with your clients. So I own the Ricoh Theta, which is one of the 3 suggested cameras down there at the bottom. Cost me $175. Anytime before we'd start installation, I would always go in and take pictures or videos of our rough condition of of the house, so that we could capture everything that was behind the walls. And I remember in the old days, I'd sit there and take a picture and turn and keep taking the pictures. And then I started taking videos. The great thing with a 360 camera is you put the camera in the middle of the room, you walk back, you click the shutter remotely from your smartphone, and it captures that entire room in a single picture. And the great news about that is that then you can actually move that picture and be able to virtually be in that space. And if your client has a 360-degree viewer, like you can see there on the screen, they can literally put that on, put those goggles on, and be able to look and move up and down and around in the space as if they were virtually standing in that room. So both of those are super powerful technology, and something that we would encourage you to do. So I'm going to turn it over now to Paul, Paul and Justin, who are going to talk a little bit about recruiting. Paul?
There we go. Well, we're running maybe a little longer than a half hour this time, guys, so I hope you can deal with it. There's a great time to recruit right now. I mean, unless you haven't heard, the labor shortage in the construction industry is over. We have a recruiting company, and we work for like 25 construction companies around the country, and the amount of applicants has tripled. It's amazing, because a lot of people are bailing out of other industries. Bigger companies are on hold. The labor pool has never been better. Now, what you can do during this time is you can, for example, look for new people that can replace the people you've got, because you're only as good as your people. And you can get rid of the bad employees, the ones that aren't quite good enough to keep or bad enough to fire. And so you can get clean house, perfect time to do it. And I would highly recommend that you consider doing that now. Now, there are several uses for an assessment test, which we do. And the assessment test, I'm going to go through it. I may go really quickly because a lot of you didn't get a chance to take the test because they had a technical glitch. So we may send it out again this week to let you go through it if you haven't done it yet. The assessment test is used for current employee evaluation, so you know who's good and who's not, and why, and how to work with them, and how to get employees work together. There's a prospective employee assessment. So we use it for placing people. We got a 90% rate. So 90% of the people we place stay in the job. Or outplacement services for now should be becoming very popular, because if you want to get those people out of your company, rather than worrying about, lawsuits or problems, whatever, you can spend a little money, outplace them into another job, and work for Amazon or somebody, right? That it makes life better for everybody. So we do all these ourselves, but I highly recommend that this assessment test or a test like it can be used for anything. I'm going to put Justin on for about 4 or 5 minutes here. He's going to go through just the basics of how this assessment works. And again, we may go more in detail later, but Justin will take it over.
Hi, everyone. I'm the head recruiter for our CSG, and what we see here now is the beginning of our assessment reviews. One of the things that makes our assessment stand out from the rest of the pack is the breadth and depth with which it can give you a profile of an applicant. I think, you know, we want to understand the person, not just the skill set. We've depended so long upon the resume to be the cornerstone of our hiring campaign. Now we can really understand more about that person before they come in and we meet them, or we Zoom call them as we do these days. And we can ensure that the culture of that individual and the culture of your business are a really good fit before we move forward. What we see here in our people handling abilities, you get a really strong sense of whether someone's got the get up and go, the client facing capacity, and understanding that you're looking for in your client. So really valuable tools here in our people handling skills. In addition to that, as you can see on the screen, we've got our logic abilities. You can really, I think, really get a sense of whether someone is detail oriented, whether they think quickly, are adept at coming up with new situations, or in meaningful situations can follow the playbook that you've set out for them. Really great tools to make sure that you're getting the right person for the right position. One of the things with recruiting is, as owners, you have 85 things to do, and then about time to do 20. So we want to make sure that our tools are quick and effective, and charts like you see here, our overall charts, give you a quick and easy way to skim through the data and get a sense of whether someone is exceptional or not. All of our gray bar items, as you can see on the overall, would be what we would consider our average. All of our green barred items are what we would consider exceptional or top performer scores. And the blue bar items would all relate to whichever applicant you're working with, making it quick and easy and concise for you to move through our data. As we spoke, you know, we're not only looking at the professional, but we're looking at the person. So we want to make sure that we can understand when things go wrong, or if things go wrong, how is this person going to react? These integrity and attitude results are really a great way for us to kind of understand when it hits the fan, what happens next. And as you can see here, this is what we would consider a very ideal applicant. Moving forward, you can also see we understand who that person is as far as their intellect, their ability to apply, whether they're confident, whether they're a strong communicator. And ones that I really like are focus, motivation, and concentration, which speak to multitasking ability to complete a singular task efficiently, and the energy that they're going to bring to your team. Particularly when you're hiring superintendents, project managers, and higher, these are really critical energies to focus in on in your hiring process. My favorite part of the assessment, we took DISC, Myers-Briggs, and a bunch of others and fused them together into what we call our behavioral quadrant profile. You can get a sense of someone's analytical, leadership, team-based empathy, and social skills. Generally, people are going to be higher or lower in one of the bottom two and one of the top two. And this makes it very easy to make sure that we're looking for the right thing. These are our top quadrants. So where we saw analyzer and leaders. These are the skills that analyzers and leaders are generally going to have. All of our clients that I recruit with, you know, we go into great depth on what these mean, and I'd be glad to share with any of the attendees after the webinar. We can now move to the bottom quadrant, where you can see the nuts and bolts of empathy, caring, ability to be social, how quick people react, and whether or not the assessment was answered honestly, which matters a lot, and, you know, the efficiency with which we can provide this for you. Again, all of these things, we want to make them quick and concise and easy for you guys to understand. So we have this overall recommendation that I absolutely love. Lower than the red bar, we're done talking. At the green bar, maybe we look a little more, and higher than the blue bar, let's hire that guy yesterday. All of these tools are designed so that we can harness this technology in a quick and efficient manner and help you recruit smarter, faster, better.
Great, thank you.
That's kind of our
nice summary.
Thank you.
So moving on, these are out. There's that technology. We have some. There's tests available. It's just in general, if you decide to clean house, get rid of the dead wood, bring in some new people, use some assessment tool. That's the one we use. There's other ones out there. Whatever you want to use, fine. But make sure that you're using an assessment tool. It'll give you a greater sense of, confidence when you hire somebody. The next one is developing a strategy for career. This is an outplacement service. You may not be familiar with those. Outplacement services help you get your employees out of your company into another company to their benefit as quickly as possible versus laying somebody off. So outplacement services are becoming very popular now because there's a lot of unemployment. So you should consider using something like that to clean out the deadwood. Moving along, next slide.
So let me just
I'm going to finish off here.
Yeah, let me just, we keep putting this slide up at the end of every webinar because it's important, I think, that we go back to these key fundamental principles that are still very relevant this week. The first one is that, again, all of this information is changing so quickly. There's so much new information that it's really important that we stay informed. But that doesn't mean binge watching on the news, right? As David said, if it bleeds, it leads, right? So, you don't want to just be stuck into panic mode of watching the sensationalist reports every night on the news, but you do want to stay informed, not only about the impact of the coronavirus in general, but also specifically with the new programs that are coming out for the residential construction industry. Secondly, connect with your peers. If you're a member of Remodelers Advantage or Builder 20 group or any other local peer group, maybe a local builders organization, stay connected with your peers. Find a time. I belong to a group in San Diego. We used to meet once a month, and now we've decided to meet every Friday. We call it a happy hour meeting, and we meet at 5 o'clock on Friday, just so that we can all continue to stay connected with each other and support each other. Next is to be optimistic about the long term, but focus on short-term solutions, because that's all that we can do. In our webinar a couple of weeks back, David talked about when you go into the office on Monday, don't look too far ahead. See, what can I do today? What can I do this week? And the last is to be selective as to who you share your concerns with, right? Look, we're all scared. We all get through panic attacks and we get worried about this. None of us know what's really going to happen in this next point. And it's important that you share your concerns with the right people. Share it with your coaches. Call us. We'd be happy to have a shoulder to cry on. But don't share it with people like your employees. They need your leadership. They need to see your confidence and your knowingness that you will continue to run the business and that you will all make it through. And that is the truth. This too shall pass, and we will all get through this together. So anyway, as I've mentioned before, we have a free weekly group coaching session that we do every Wednesdays at 9 a.m. We cover, because we have an hour, we cover some of this same information, but in much more detail. And we also give everyone on the call an opportunity to share their own experiences, as well as to provide some peer-to-peer support, like what I just mentioned.
And also, we'll be sending you another shot at taking that assessment. Again, you can use any assessment you want, but you should have the experience of taking an assessment so you can get the actual idea of how well they work. So when you go to evaluate, outplace, hire, whatever, you'll at least have the experience of one tool that helps you make better decisions. So please click on that, and we'll go over it with you, no problem.
All right, and we will be back again next Friday with the latest and greatest information to help you navigate through this uncertain time and figure out ways to find the opportunities. And believe me, there are many opportunities within all of the challenges that we're facing. And I know that there are going to be certain residential construction companies that are going to come out stronger and better and much better positioned after this pandemic. And there's others that aren't going to be. And we want to make sure that everyone on this webinar is in that first group of people that are going to leverage these opportunities and make the best of them. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, either call us or email us. Here is our phone numbers and our email addresses. We are more than happy to answer any questions that you have at any time. You've heard us each talk. If it's anything related to the loans, you can reach out to me. Paul's just a great marketing guru, and David really understands how to successfully run a residential construction business. So thank you all very much for joining us. And
also, by the way, just to let you know, all these webinars are on our website. So if you missed it or you want to get some information off of it, usually takes a data post it maybe 2. So you can, in our website, you can go watch all these videos. They're all there under resources.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next Friday, and have a terrific week.
Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Good afternoon.